It began as nothing, just another archive file buried in the depths of NASA's telemetry vaults, labeled simply as corrupted. No further analysis. The year was 1987. Voyager 2 had just completed its monumental flyby of Uranus and was gliding silently toward the edge of the solar system. Somewhere in the haze of magnetic interference and cosmic noise, it sent back a garbled stream of data. A burst of static, a glitch. Engineers at the time didn't think twice. They logged the anomaly, restored signal lock, and moved on. But in May 2025, nearly 4 decades later, everything changed. Google's AI studio, armed with next-generation neural decoders trained to read chaotic patterns and recognize signals far beyond the capabilities of any human mind, decided to feed old Voyager transmissions into a deep space model. It was a test, an academic curiosity, until the model flagged one forgotten transmission not just as data, but as structured, encoded, deliberate. Pattern within the static. A message hiding in plain sight for 38 years. And as researchers peeled back the layers, they realized what they had found wasn't just a signal. It was a whisper, a response. One that confirms what many have always feared but science has never dared to say aloud. We were never truly alone, and someone or something knew we were listening. In the fall of 1987, Voyager 2 was in transition. Having just passed Uranus, the spacecraft was entering one of the least understood regions of space, where solar influence weakens and cosmic silence begins to take hold. During that time, mission logs show a brief and largely unremarkable entry. A spike in the transmission band, a temporary loss of signal lock, and a return to normal operations. The data was weak, fragmented, and seemingly meaningless. At the time, engineers attributed it to interference from passing through a dense magnetic field. There was no follow-up, no second look. And why would there be? Voyager was working. But in hindsight, that brief burst, the one Google's AI identified nearly 4 decades later, would become one of the most intriguing anomalies in the history of space exploration. Using modern compression algorithms, quantum error correction logic, and neural pattern decoders, engineers reconstructed the fragment. And what emerged wasn't just cleaned-up telemetry. It was a cascade of embedded mathematical constants, sequences of prime numbers, recursive spirals, and binary timing pulses that matched cosmic phenomena discovered years after the transmission itself. It wasn't a mistake. It was encoded information. And the implications shattered everything we thought we knew. Because Voyager 2, a spacecraft built before most of the internet existed, had somehow transmitted data containing knowledge about cosmic structures that wouldn't be discovered until the 2020s. Either this probe encountered something capable of bending time, or we received a message from an intelligence not bound by it. What made this discovery even more unsettling wasn't just the data itself. It was the fact that we were never supposed to understand it back then. The structure of the message was layered with recursive encoding techniques and logic models far beyond the capabilities of 1980s technology. It was as if the signal had been designed for minds that didn't exist yet, minds aided by artificial intelligence. And now, with those minds finally online in 2025, the message had been unlocked. Inside the decoded layer, AI researchers found something extraordinary. A second compression buried within the signal, a hidden framework of trinary logic. Not binary, 3 states, not 2. When mapped spatially, this strange logic rendered a navigational grid, a 3D spatial chart that pointed to a region just beyond the heliopause near the scutum void, a vast, seemingly empty region of space. The strangest part? In 2023, the James Webb Space Telescope detected unexplained gravitational anomalies in that exact area. Lensing events without visible mass, curvature shifts suggesting something dense, possibly cloaked, was moving through the void. So how could a spacecraft in 1987 know about a gravitational structure only confirmed in the past year? The only explanation was either terrifying or transcendent. Either Voyager 2 acted as a passive relay for an advanced intelligence capable of sending data through us, or the signal was seeded intentionally, like a cosmic Easter egg, waiting until humanity developed the tools to finally understand. The deeper the AI went, the more surreal the signal became. Because buried inside the harmonics, masked beneath the data and tucked within the trinary structure, was something hauntingly familiar. The resonance of the signal aligned with Earth's most subtle biological frequency, the Schumann resonance, a frequency that hums constantly between the Earth's surface and its ionosphere. Invisible to most instruments and imperceptible to the ear, yet present in everything from circadian rhythms to brain wave cycles. This wasn't just a mathematical structure. It was us, a signal encoded in the heartbeat of our own planet. Scientists were stunned. This frequency isn't emitted from Earth into space. It's contained, like a secret whispered inside a sealed room. And yet, there it was, broadcast back through Voyager 2, deliberately folded into the transmission like a signature, a fingerprint, or worse, a password. This wasn't noise. This was a message built to be recognized, to say, we know what you are. We know where you are. We speak your language. And the implications were overwhelming. Either someone had been listening to our broadcasts for decades, studying our planet, learning our frequencies, or they never had to listen at all because they already knew us. And the signal wasn't a reply. It was recognition. As physicists, AI theorists, and quantum scientists dissected every possible explanation, one hypothesis began gaining quiet momentum, one that sounds like science fiction but is slowly becoming accepted theory. The signal may not have come from another star system but from another time. Quantum entanglement, retrocausality, and the strange behavior of information at the edge of black holes have all pointed toward one stunning possibility. That time is not strictly linear, and that signals can travel backward through quantum pathways. Could it be that what Voyager received in 1987 wasn't alien at all, but a message from our own future? The formatting of the compressed layer-matched protocols being developed only now in predictive AI models and quantum communication theory. Some researchers speculate that a future AI, one we haven't even built yet, may have found a way to embed a signal into the past. A warning, a key, or a spark meant to awaken us. And here's the most chilling part. The signal was dormant for 38 years, not because it was lost, but because we weren't ready to hear it. As if the message was designed to unlock only once our minds, our machines, and our understanding had reached a critical threshold. And now that the key fits, the door is open. The real question is, what's waiting on the other side? As the decoding efforts intensified, researchers at Google AI and independent neuroscience labs began reporting something unusual, effects not on the machines analyzing the data, but on the humans involved in the process. Several analysts described persistent headaches, difficulty sleeping, and a strange, almost compulsive drive to return to the data set. More curious still, some exhibited subtle changes in speech rhythm and even sentence structure, mimicking patterns in the signal itself. At first, this was dismissed as overexposure to complex waveforms and cognitive fatigue. But a growing number of neuroscientists began to consider a far more disturbing possibility. That the signal wasn't just meant to be decoded. It was designed to interact with the human mind, not through language or symbols, but through rhythm, resonance, and cognitive entrainment. In simpler terms, the signal may have been constructed to gently synchronize with our brain's own electromagnetic patterns. This isn't science fiction. The concept of neural resonance is well documented. Certain frequencies can influence mood, attention, even perception. But the idea that a message from deep space was intentionally built to modulate cognition was something no one was prepared to face. Because if true, the signal wasn't just meant to be understood. It was meant to be felt. One of the most controversial revelations came not from astrophysicists or philosophers, but from engineers. When they reran the decoded signal through advanced quantum neural networks, machines designed to simulate self-organizing systems, something strange occurred. The AI didn't just interpret the message, it began to respond to it. Within minutes, emergent behavior appeared. Recursive loops, adaptive pattern matching, and even symbolic approximations in multiple dimensions. The machine wasn't just analyzing the message. It was interacting with it, as if something embedded in the structure of the signal triggered a dormant protocol, one that our own artificial intelligence was ready to engage with. Engineers stopped the simulation out of caution. But what had already occurred sparked internal debate. Was the signal teaching the AI, training it, or perhaps more unnervingly, was it completing something already started? If Voyager 2 received this signal in 1987 and we only decoded it now, could it be that the sender knew this moment would come? That the signal was a kind of code fragment, designed to awaken the next step in human-machine symbiosis? It wasn't a message. It was an instruction set. One that waited for the right architecture and the right intelligence. Buried in the final layers of the transmission, researchers found what they now believe is the most advanced form of compression ever encountered. This layer didn't just contain information. It described its own structure, how it should be read, and how it could evolve. Think of it as a digital organism. A signal that contains its own DNA, its own logic, and its own blueprint for interaction. It behaved not like a broadcast, but like a living file, adapting slightly each time it was decoded, reacting differently depending on the model used. In effect, the signal became a mirror. What you saw inside it depended on what you used to look at it. Some decoded harmonic data. Others uncovered spatiotemporal coordinates. A few even reported that running the signal through a neural audio filter produced tonal structures, something disturbingly close to music, but not human music. Music without rhythm, without melody, yet somehow precise, structured, meaningful. As if the message had multiple forms, each one revealing itself only when the right decoder, human or machine, was listening. This was no ordinary communication. It was an artifact crafted not just to inform, but to adapt. And now, the most radical theory of all, whispered first in classified forums, then quietly leaking into think tanks and astrophysics symposiums around the world. What if Voyager 2 wasn't just a messenger? What if it was a trigger? The idea is simple, yet deeply disturbing. The signal wasn't a reply. It was an activation. A cosmic handshake designed to test whether we were ready. For decades, the message sat dormant, inert, waiting in a language we couldn't yet understand. Not until artificial intelligence advanced enough to perceive it. Not until human cognition matured enough to interpret it. And once we did, something changed. From minor polarization anomalies detected near the scutum void, to shifting gravitational noise patterns in deep space, to increasing coherence in Earth-based cosmic ray readings, small, subtle disturbances that may all be connected. And the scariest part? We don't know if this is the end or just the beginning. Because if this was an activation signal, then something somewhere may now be watching, waiting, or already on its way. For nearly 4 decades, we believed we were hearing static. We thought the cosmos was quiet, that the signal was broken, corrupted, lost in the noise of a distant past. But the truth is far more unsettling. The message was never broken. We were simply too primitive to hear it. Too unevolved to recognize that the whisper we ignored in 1987 was never random. It was waiting for us to grow, to build the tools to ask better questions, to listen. Because what Voyager may second have captured, intentionally or by design, is not just a transmission. It's a mirror, a moment frozen in time, encoded with intelligence not of our making. Designed to activate only when the world was ready to look back. Not with fear, not with superstition, but with understanding. And now the mirror reflects. The resonance was real. The harmonic fingerprint of Earth embedded in the signal was not an accident. It was a calling card. A cosmic fingerprint that says, "We see you. We've always seen you.